Mike Farrell breaks silence after his wife, Shelley Fabares' death. I'll admit, when I first heard that Shelley Fabares had died at 82, I didn't immediately think about her television career. I thought about Mike Farrell. More than 40 years of marriage, illness, recovery, and ordinary life together had led them to this moment. And suddenly, the man so many people knew as Captain B.J. Honeycutt was facing something no television script could prepare him for. Shelley Fabares was much more than the sweet-faced actress many Americans remembered from their childhood screens. She had been working since she was 3 years old. By 14, she was Mary Stone on The Donna Reed Show, and for 7 seasons, viewers watched her grow up in front of them. That kind of fame is difficult to explain today. People didn't just watch Shelley, they felt like they knew her. And then, almost unexpectedly, she became a recording star. In 1962, Johnny Angel reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold more than 1 million copies. Think about that for a moment. An actress people already welcomed into their living rooms had suddenly become the voice coming through their radios. But Shelley's life eventually became much bigger than television, movies, or a hit record. And strangely enough, one of the people who understood that best was Elvis Presley. Shelley met Elvis while filming Girl Happy in 1964. She would eventually appear with him in 3 movies, Girl Happy, Spin Out, and Clambake. She always insisted their relationship was a friendship, not a romance. What she remembered most was Elvis's incredible presence. She described the entire atmosphere changing whenever he entered a room. But there was another side to Elvis that stayed with her. She remembered seeing enormous crowds rush toward him, and she couldn't help wondering how someone could live under that kind of attention. That memory tells you something about Shelley. She wasn't simply fascinated by fame. She was fascinated by the person underneath it. And maybe that's one reason her own life became so meaningful later. Because fame eventually became the least interesting thing about her. In 1984, Shelley married Mike Farrell. Their relationship wasn't some Hollywood whirlwind that appeared overnight. They had first crossed paths years earlier, in 1970, and life took them in different directions before they eventually found their way back to each other. This time, it lasted. For more than 4 decades. And the hardest test of that marriage came when Shelley became seriously ill with liver disease. There were years of uncertainty. Doctors couldn't immediately solve the problem. Shelley and Mike carried medical pagers, waiting for the call that a donor organ had become available. Imagine living like that. Every unexpected page could change everything. And after her liver transplant in October 2000, Shelley still had another difficult chapter ahead. Her recovery took years. What surprised her was what happened after the physical healing had mostly taken place. She became deeply depressed. At first, she felt guilty for feeling that way. She believed she should simply be grateful because she had been given another chance at life. But eventually, she understood something important. Sometimes the mind survives an ordeal first, and only later gives you permission to feel everything that happened. That realization seemed to change the way Shelley looked at life. She became more open, more curious, and, in a strange way, more fearless. There's a story from that period that has always stayed with me. While she was dealing with her illness, Shelley decided to do something completely unexpected. She dyed her hair a wild, bright pink. For someone who had spent virtually her entire life in show business, where appearance and expectations mattered so much, it became an oddly liberating experience. And when she showed Mike Farrell, he loved it. He even encouraged her to do it again whenever the color faded. That tiny story says more about their marriage than some grand Hollywood declaration ever could. He didn't try to change her. He let her be Shelley, and she let him be Mike. That's rare, especially after 40 years. But Shelley's compassion didn't stop with her own illness. Her mother, Elsa, died after years of Alzheimer's disease. Shelley and her sister had watched the disease slowly change someone they loved, and that experience stayed with Shelley. She eventually spent 16 years working with the Alzheimer's Association, supporting research and families dealing with the same devastating illness. And that's where her life starts to look very different from the celebrity story we might have expected. The girl from the Donna Reed show had become someone using her own painful experiences to help other people. Meanwhile, Mike Farrell had built his own life far beyond acting. Millions knew him as B.J. Honeycutt on MASH, but away from television he became deeply involved in activism, including his long work opposing the death penalty. The two of them had careers. They had causes. They had difficult years. But at the center of it all was their marriage. And now Shelley is gone. The family's statement described her as a devoted wife, stepmother, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend. Someone remembered for her warmth, loyalty, wit, courage, and ability to make people feel valued.